Naples is the home of Italy's largest and oldest mafia, the Camorra. For decades, they've used extreme violence to force businesses to pay millions in extortion and have infiltrated most parts of the economy to launder money made from international drug trafficking. But the Camorra have also pioneered a new form of trafficking, profiting from the 11 billion tons of waste we produce every year.
It's an inordinate amount, and it's no surprise that a third of that waste is being disposed of in unsafe or even illegal ways. I've come to Italy to meet the people who are suffering in the system and to meet the mafia making billions out of disposing waste illegally.
To understand how the Camorra turned garbage into gold, you have to go back to the 1990s. As they expanded their international drug trafficking business, the Camorra assassinated anyone who stood in their way. In 1994, Naples declared a state of emergency, not because of the escalating homicide rates, but because of a waste crisis. When the state hastily issued contracts to new waste disposal companies, the Camorra spotted a new, lucrative business venture. Over the last 30 years, operating behind front companies, the Camorra have won profitable waste contracts from heavy industry across Italy. They've dumped millions of tons in Naples and the surrounding region of Campania.
Just got a call from one of the contributors that I was hoping to speak to here in Naples. He's saying that there are fires right now burning, and he's asked me to go to him immediately to see exactly what's going on.
When the Camorra dump a new load of illegal waste, they often cover their tracks by burning it.
I can see it. Yeah, it's over there. Well, they say it's a perfect place to dump, right? It's very difficult to get to. It's in between, like a spaghetti junction of highways. It can go unnoticed for quite some time, but I can see the smoke billowing.
Salve.
È un schifo qua che va. Troppa monnezza. Noi abbiamo bambini piccolini.
What about the waste? Are they dumping stuff and burning it? There's a fire. Okay, we're gonna go and see now. Hold on tight. Should we just try on foot? Because we're not gonna be able to drive up to it. So it looks like the fire people have just put the fire out. It's absolutely gigantic. It's huge. The ground is still smoldering.
Whenever there's a problem that governments fail to solve, organized crime comes in and finds opportunity. This garbage needed to be moved, and they've already built the infrastructure over the years to move anything, from drugs to humans to weapons. This was a way to legitimize, to launder money, and the quantity of waste that's constantly growing would become in itself a great source of revenue. It was a win-win situation for them. Of course, they will not try to get rid of the waste in a proper way, because that is very, very expensive. So by not actually investing in the treatment of the waste, they make a lot of money because they get paid by the waste generators, and they bury it or they just dump it. There's almost no penalty for trafficking of waste. It's very low risk, it's high returns, it's great business for the mafia.
Excuse me, how often are you doing this?
Lo facciamo ogni giorno.
Giorno?
Ogni giorno, sì, purtroppo ogni giorno.
I don't even know what I'm breathing in. The air here is toxic. The land's been destroyed. They've dumped whatever they wanted to, and now I'm covered in trafficked trash, ash. And it's just such an awful smell and taste in the back of my throat, you can't even imagine.
Local resident Enzo has been documenting the devastation caused by the Camorra.
Can you tell me what's happened here? How big was the fire and what were they burning?
L'incendio era molto ampio, cioè qua è bruciato di tutto, cioè in pratica rifiuti inerti speciali, pericolosi e non, c'era anche amianto, c'era ovviamente copertoni tantissimi, c'erano fusti con residui di solventi chimici dentro.
There are laws regulating the disposal of hazardous substances, but there's little profit in following costly treatment procedures. So the Camorra simply dumped the waste and their toxins, enabling them to undercut their competitors.
Quindi se questo luogo non viene bonificato, tutto quello che è stato bruciato qui avrà delle conseguenze anche qui nella falda sottostante. È la Camorra che ha devastato questa terra che un tempo era tanta bellezza. Io qui ho dei video fatti qui a Caivano l'altra sera.
Oh my God. This is here?
Sì, sì, è qui.
Sempre tutti questi materiali di risulta, di scarto, che li incendiano, li appiccano ed ecco il risultato.
Dello stesso luogo di ieri mattina e ieri sera.
Fires started by the Camorra are so commonplace that the region is now known as the land of fires.
What's the hardest thing for you when you see something like this?
Rabbia infinita, perché qua tu non vedi bruciare le cose, qua vedi bruciare la tua vita, vedi bruciare la tua terra, vedi bruciare la dignità delle persone di questa terra.
I'm just spending a few hours here, but Enzo and a lot of people have to live in this. This is completely part of their lives. And I can't even begin to kind of understand what it must take, how angry you must feel to know that this goes on and nobody's watching.
The Camorra have dumped waste in thousands of illegal sites across Campania. Arsenic, asbestos, and dangerous heavy metals leak into local drinking water, people's food, and the air they breathe. The illegal waste trade earns the Camorra billions of euros a year. I've come to meet an ex-Camorra boss who was involved in setting up this dirty business.
Hi.
After serving a 20-year sentence, Nunzio broke the Camorra's code of silence, the omertà, and became a state informant. He now lives with a price on his head.
Guarda, c'ho la foto proprio del primo carcere, 18 anni e mezzo. Quella prigione lì è stata la mia rovina. Quei signori che vedi là sono morti tutti morti ammazzati. Solo io sono rimasto di là. In quella carcerazione i migliori camorristi napoletani stavano in quel padiglione.
What did you have to do to get to that rank? I mean, was there violence involved?
Devi essere una persona seria e molto credibile. C'è il camorrista che fa il killer, c'è il camorrista che fa da amministratore. È una società.
Yes.
E la mia era quella lì di estorsioni, no? E il mio compito era quello lì.
How did you even get involved in trash trafficking?
Mio cognato trasportava i rifiuti. Mi spiega tutti i guadagni che si possono fare nel campo dei rifiuti. E dico, scusa della parola, si rischia facendo la droga, si rischia tanto e non si riescono a guadagnare questi soldi. 30 anni fa io ho detto alla magistratura che la monnezza è oro. Sono soldi.
How did you justify that to yourself? Like, you know this trash is toxic. Do you remember what you were thinking? You're 20, 30 years old. What were you thinking when you were doing this?
Non guardavo i rifiuti che trasportavano, non mi interessava, no? Perché io guardavo la percentuale che mi serviva a quinta legge. Sono gli industriali che fanno i rifiuti sporchi e per risparmiare danno poi alla Camorra a poco prezzo da smaltire dove vogliono.
Nunzio claims heavy industry knew the Camorra were not disposing of the waste safely, and politicians and judges were paid off to avoid enforcing environmental laws.
Chi ci guadagna? Guadagna la politica, la magistratura che sta zitta e non parla. Io ho corrotto la politica, io ho corrotto i magistrati. Queste sono tutte discariche, tutti fili sotterrati.
What happened to this?
La magistratura ha fatto finta di non vedere. Poi se lei vuole, io la posso anche portare qua.
An alliance of clans with over 4,500 foot soldiers, the Camorra exert control over Campania through violence. Nunzio left this area years ago and is fearful of retribution on his return.
It's Nunzio. Nunzio? Nunzio, hello?
Ciao, allora, guardi che dobbiamo fare una cosa molto in fretta, eh? Sì, perché qui
Sì?
immediatamente mi conoscono, dice quello è per l'annunzio.
He's scared.
Va bene?
See, yes, okay, we will be careful. Okay, he's already out of his car. He's gone ahead. So what are we looking at? What is over here?
Queste sono le discariche che noi abbiamo visto sulla piantina. Io ho messo i rifiuti sì in questa discarica qua. Finite questa qua, riempite questa qua. Abbiamo riempito quella lì.
There.
Di là, vedi dove è tutto sembra un bosco, sembra una bella collina, lì è discarica sotto. Poi la terza si è riempita e questa qua si è portata di là. Da qua si è portata di qua.
And what would you dump here? What sort of things do you remember putting into the ground?
Rifiuti da tutta l'Italia, qui c'è di tutto. Rifiuti ospedalieri, rifiuti radioattivi,
Radioactive.
solidi urbani, fanghi, olio, eccetera, eccetera. C'è tutto.
Nunzio, what is this doing to the people that live in those houses?
Tutti i tumori, questi moriranno subito, tutti i tumori, tutti, perché qua le falde sono tutte inquinate. Qui la gente, se andiamo a vedere ogni famiglia, sono tutti infettati, tutti, non se ne salva nessuno. Stanno lì perché sono costretti a stare, perché non hanno altre possibilità da spostarsi e sono costretti a morire lì.
You're so angry at what's happened here. Are you angry with yourself for being part of this?
Che però sono arrabbiato perché io rischio la vita mia, va bene? Qui è pericoloso, è molto pericoloso. Quei signori là, i miliardi che hanno, no? Non costa niente a dare 10.000 euro a una persona e andate a sparare lì sopra, non ci vuole niente.
Okay, let's go.
E di andare via, siamo stati troppi.
Come on, let's go. I think this is too much now.
Nunzio cannot know who will get sick from the waste he dumped, but the region of Campania does have the highest cancer mortality rate in Italy. An area 25 kilometers north of Naples became known as the Triangle of Death. This is where the Camorra dumped most of their waste. Over the last few decades, there have been alarmingly high levels of leukemia amongst children here. Marzia Cacciopoli lives in a nearby town with the highest child mortality rate in Italy. Her son, Antonio, developed a cancerous brain tumor aged just 9. 1 year of chemotherapy could not save him.
Parlava perfettamente in inglese, era autodidatta, amava tanto Michael Jackson, i balli e amava tutta la musica rock. Lui è un batterista, cresceva con la passione della musica, avevamo una piccola famiglia molto felice. I suoi sogni, i suoi desideri sono stati spezzati da questa malattia. Il glioblastoma è una malattia molto, molto crudele. Ho iniziato a capire che mio figlio si era ammalato di qualcosa di terribile dovuto dall'ambiente quando mi fu chiesto proprio dove io vivessi dai medici, perché non era una malattia riscontrabile sul fanciullo, sul bambino. Qui siamo io e lui in cura. Questi sono i nostri ultimi baci.
Local priest Don Patriciello has seen a large number of children from the town die from cancers usually associated with the elderly.
Io ho celebrato il funerale qua in questa parrocchia a Luciano, che è morto a 16 anni di leucemia, ad Antonio, che è morto ha 10 anni di tumore e dopo qualche anno purtroppo anche la sua mamma. Giorgino è morto a 3 anni e io li potrei chiamare per nome tutti quanti. E allora, volgendo lo sguardo anche nei paesi vicini, mi sono reso conto che c'erano tanti bambini che morivano di tumore. Allora non voglio ridurmi a celebrare il funerale di un bambino, voglio che questo bambino non muoia. E là abbiamo alzato la voce.
The people here have endured decades of violence from the Camorra. Now their toxic waste trade is harming children. They're turning against the Camorra and the politicians.
Che succede qui oggi?
Sono dal ministro dell'ambiente.
They've come to the streets today as the Minister of the Environment, Sergio Costa, is in town to launch a clean-up project.
Hanno bruciato tutto con capannone, ma hanno bruciato.
Sono 34 anni che aspettiamo soluzioni e sono morti migliaia di persone, migliaia, bambini, giovani.
In 2014 and 15, the EU fined the Italian government millions of euros for their continued failure to tackle the toxic waste.
This is obviously a big deal for the local community, and there's lots of newspapers and journalists.
È chiaro che l'obiettivo è roghi zero, però non può essere lasciato solo alle forze di polizia. Ci vuole la politica qua. I rifiuti mo e raccogliamo sul serio. Mamma mia.
I roghi ci ammazzano, sono i roghi.
Ci stiamo provando, no?
Sono
Io
i
ci
roghi.
voglio anche riuscire.
Possibile? Ci sono bambini che muoiono di leucemia. Ma che scherziamo? A me non interessa dei colori politici, sono una mamma, una nonna. Basta, basta.
Why are you doing this?
Because every night we breathe toxic air from fire. This is not possible. Okay.
But we're talking to him. I'm just doing my job.
Okay.
Thank you. Do you think that this is going to change anything?
This is not useful. This is not concrete. Just a manifestation to show to the world the terrible situation of this part of the world. We are alone.
Eccoli qua, gli ingombranti.
Avanti ancora peggio di qui. Macchine nuove tagliate in mezzo alla strada. 6 macchine.
Ok, lasciamoli lavorare.
We follow the minister to his next event. People here have little faith in politicians to tackle the Camorra. They've corrupted local politicians, judges, and the police over many decades.
Quanto sia difficile vivere in questi territori. Non ci si allea con gli autori dello scendiamo. Gli autori ci scendiamo. Io vi auguro tutto il bene del mondo. E tu ti vedi
Mia figlia ha 29 anni e sta combattendo da 8 anni contro un carcinoma maligno al midollo osseo. Questa è la mia reazione, la reazione che ho fatto, dovuta proprio al fatto che a me mi colpisce in prima persona questa cosa.
Just waiting for the minister. The people today were very vocal. They were very loud. They seem to be speaking from a pain that's deep inside them.
Era giusto che io venissi ad ascoltare i cittadini. Io sono di questa terra, io sono nato in questa terra. Ma ecco perché vengo qua e dico incominciamo a togliere i rifiuti e lo faccio.
That is the visible part of the problem. The toxic chemicals, the ill health of the local community, the air, the food. This is going to take decades to solve.
È vero che quello lì è soltanto una parte del problema, ma infatti nel frattempo abbiamo approvato una legge che dà al Ministero dell'Ambiente la possibilità di fare le bonifiche in questo territorio, che vuol dire finalmente liberare dai rifiuti tossici e dagli inquinanti il suolo, non solo, depurare le acque. Lo stiamo già facendo, le acque sono più pulite di prima. Ora è chiaro che c'è un tempo per farlo, ma questo tempo tecnico è finalmente iniziato.
But you're fighting the traffickers. They are the Camorra, they are the mafia. How can you fight them
Per combattere la malavita organizzata e combattere le ecomafie, cioè la malavita organizzata specializzata nel waste, nei rifiuti, sì, ci sono delle tecniche. Il tema è rendere trasparente l'azione di chi gestisce i rifiuti, in modo che si sappia come viene gestita la cosiddetta filiera dei rifiuti. L'altro elemento è quello del sistema di controllo dei soldi che girano attorno ai rifiuti, perché la mafia va dove ci sono i soldi, inseguite i soldi e troverete il reato.
Tracing the Camorra's cash is not easy. The police have seized their luxury mansions and millions of euros in assets. But over many decades, the Camorra have permeated the local economy, laundering and hiding their money in agriculture, restaurants, supermarkets, even car parks. Seizing the billions the Camorra make would mean tearing apart the fabric of Naples society. I've come back to meet local activist Enzo. Working with anti-mafia group Libera, Enzo is now transforming confiscated Camorra properties for the community.
E questa qua era la dependance, una villa con la piscina, con le palme. Mi dà un po' l'impressione di un'immagine tipo Scarface, no? Voglio dire, ecco. Il boss adesso è in galera, ma tutta la sua famiglia sta lì, quindi siamo a pochi passi.
What does it say?
Basta biocidio, a chiederlo sono i nostri figli. Siamo male.
With the mafia practically next door, I'm not surprised Enzo has installed CCTV.
Abbiamo già avuto delle intimidazioni e noi saremo pronti per dimostrare alla Camorra che noi comunque non andremo mai via e che noi non abbiamo paura di loro. Qui avevano le scuderie qui, cavalli, avevano i cavalli. E qua dobbiamo ristrutturare, dobbiamo risistemare per fare una biblioteca. In questo paese non c'è manco una biblioteca. La Camorra la sconfiggiamo con la cultura.
That sounds like a plan.
The culture war is now working. After years of public pressure, the Camorra is finally starting to bend, trafficking the majority of its waste overseas.
Their image was badly tainted because people realized that the Camorra was doing something that was detrimental to their health. So this is why they wanted to put some distance between what they were collecting in Italy and the dumping grounds.
The Camorra is trafficking waste to countries with weaker environmental controls, exporting the illness they've wrought on their own community.
Tenente Vigile!
I've come to meet Italy's finance police, the Guardia di Finanza, who work closely with customs. On average, 300,000 containers come through here every year. The Camorra falsify paperwork and corrupt some port officials to ensure the waste gets through undetected.
So, Tenente, is this coming for scan?
Yes. Abbiamo rilevato dei profili di rischio perché contiene merce per noi sospetta.
Qui ci sono pezzi di auto, ricambi di auto, di camion che per la sicurezza non possono essere scortati.
No, ma non sono dichiarati.
No.
No, bisogna andare ad aprire il contenitore, perché la merce non è dichiarata e si potrebbe trattare di rifiuti.
You two agree that this looks dodgy. It looks like it could be trafficked waste.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna stand back and I'm gonna watch you do your job. Why did they put a car in here?
Queste parti meccaniche che in Italia sono rifiuti vengono comunque destinate in paesi africani, dove lì c'è un florido mercato di pezzi di auto usate, quindi ciò che in Italia è rifiuto, in Africa diventa un bene commerciale con un valore importante.
It seems that one person's waste is another person's profit. Is this a mixture of personal belongings and things that they want to sell commercially? Is it designed to hide the truth that this is trafficking?
Yes. La persona per bene che facendo sacrifici in Italia con lavori umili raccolgono beni da destinare ai propri cari oltreoceano. Ma dietro questi organizzazioni criminali organizzano e architettano il commercio di beni usati. Ci sono anche bottiglie di vino e pacchi di pasta che servono quali regali per accelerare le operazioni doganali in territorio africano.
I mean, it can't get more Italian than trying to bribe folks with wine and pasta.
Yes.
It's full of trash.
Yes.
Just waste.
Olio, vino, champagne.
Oh, the good stuff. Better. What do you see?
Mini?
A Mini Cooper car. I'm in the container right now, and because there's no way the camera's going to be able to get up here, but there's a Mini Cooper, there's mattresses, there's absolutely countless bits of tires, TVs. They've even remembered to bring in the kitchen sink. I mean, it's ridiculous. Grazie.
In 2017, the trafficking of waste became an even more lucrative business. China, who used to recycle 50% of the world's waste, banned all foreign imports. This opened the way for the Camorra to expand their international network. It's estimated they traffic thousands of tons of waste into Eastern Europe. Much of it arrives in Romania, which has been dubbed the dustbin of Europe.
The mafias like to invest in countries where the rule of law is weaker, where there's easier to bribe, where there's poverty, because for them, again, crisis situations are opportunities. And Romania is one of those. You see people in the local governments, people in the environmental agency, officials in the borders. So they really corrupt all across. They create a trail of corruption that serves them while the citizens are victims of all of this. When you go to Transylvania, where I grew up, and you see garbage dumped, on these mountainous slopes in the forests, it's sad because you realize how much that changes places.
I've come to Bihor County in Romania, where trucks illegally dumped 700 tons of waste from Italy behind a farm. Local journalist Adriana is investigating the case.
Here it is. It's just ripped up clothes?
I see clothes and I see, I don't know, plastics.
It's rotting.
Yes.
Smells terrible. It looks like this came from like an industrial,
Definitely
commercial
is
waste.
industrial.
What does it say?
A company in Italy, and it has the Italy address.
This is made in Italy. So they're hiding it. They put these bales of hay on either side.
So no one can see it. They knew how to hide this waste here. They knew no one comes here by foot.
Do you want to see what it looks like with a drone to get up so we can actually see up top? It's just vast.
Much more than I thought. You see it from the air, and you see the big disaster.
Yeah. How did this happen?
The papers suggested that it came from Italy to be recycled here. But we do not have a recycled fabric here, so it was clear this waste was brought here to be abandoned.
This case is currently being investigated by the Romanian authorities. We follow the trail east to Cluj. On the edge of one of the country's largest landfills, local artist Istvan discovered very similar waste.
All this here is Italian waste.
And how long has it been here?
It was exactly the same month when the mafia-connected Italian waste was brought to Bihor County.
The thing that's really remarkable is how similar they are.
The consistency, the shape, the size, all match. It's been established officially that it came from Italy. But actually, they have papers only for the quarter of the quantity, but nobody cares.
So wait, so there's more than there should be here?
Yeah, of course.
According to Istvan, a fraction of the waste was declared on the official paperwork. The majority is undisclosed, unregulated, and unsafe, and has simply been added to the 2,500 tons left to rot at Pataret. Istvan wants to show me the scale of the problem here.
Sorry?
No. His uniform says he's working for the local administration.
What did he say?
Do I care about? I don't.
He's threatening your dog?
Yes. Every time I come here, I end up getting in trouble because always they are threatening me, threatening my dog, threatening whatever.
There's a pack of barking dogs and a very angry man with a stick.
This is a very good spot to see the whole of Mordor.
The waste is 5 stories high and been described as an environmental ticking time bomb. The EU has demanded Pataret's closure after giving millions of euros to help build a new waste disposal plant, which is still not fully operational, almost a decade later.
The biggest crow colony in Europe, feeding on the dump, yes.
There's hundreds of crows there.
Yes, thousands of crows, yes. This is such a total catastrophe.
Is the land here toxic?
Yes, it's highly toxic. There are even paper evidences that they dumped several 10 tons of heavy metal. And the heavy metal concentrations are like 1,000 times like the top alert level. And this is on their official documents, and still they never did anything about it.
Thousands of the Roma community live right next to the dump, with little access to running water and electricity. The dumping of international, unregulated waste is further polluting their home.
Racism is really hardcore in Romania. And the people that we love to hate the most are the Roma. This is exposing thousands of people to hardcore toxicity.
Istvan has introduced me to Pepe from the local Roma community.
Pepe! They're all your dogs! All right, we've got an entourage now. This is good. That's so nice. They made like a little art with their hands.
I mean, children play with whatever they have, you know. Here in the community, there's no park.
What kind of problems do you have from living so close to the dump?
It's like living close to a nuclear plant. I mean, you are constantly bombarded with pollution that comes out from the rotten garbage. The smell makes you sick in the stomach, and most of the people develop cancer really fast. First, the old ones was developing respiratory problems, stomach problems, and liver problems, and also rashes and all kinds of stuff. You know, I don't know what caused this, because we were trying to get the local authorities to make tests and to tell us if this area is polluted or not. For 10 years, they didn't say nothing. This year, the city council admitted that the Pataret area is really hard polluted. So they needed 10 years to admit. Yeah.
The European Commission has now started legal action against Romania for their mismanagement of 15 landfills, including Pataret. But they've done little to tackle the Italian mafias who run the trade.
This is dirty business. It's business that, you know, governments can't really solve. There are very few treatment facilities in Eastern Europe that can deal with, you know, large volumes of garbage. And the mafia is just taking advantage of that situation.
While governments look the other way, the high rewards of this trade has attracted an even bigger fish, Italy's most powerful mafia, the 'ndrangheta. They're trafficking far more dangerous waste on an even bigger scale. In 2005, a former foot soldier claimed the 'ndrangheta had sunk ships loaded with radioactive waste into the Mediterranean Sea. Declassified Italian Secret Service documents suggested it could be as many as 50 ships. It triggered worldwide investigations by prosecutors, police, and journalists, which are still ongoing today. I've come to Calabria, the region the 'Ndrangheta has controlled with terror and violence for decades. No one knows this more acutely than journalist Michele Albanese. He was awarded Italy's highest accolade, the Honour of Merit, for his exposés on the 'Ndrangheta.
It must be him with his 2 bodyguards. Michele.
Ciao.
I'm glad that we could talk. I want to understand your situation right now. What is life for you like every day?
Io da 6 anni e qualche mese vivo sotto scorta. Sono i ragazzi della Polizia di Stato che mi seguono in tutti i miei spostamenti. Nel luglio del 2014 venni avvertito dalla polizia che avevano programmato un attentato nei miei confronti. Per fortuna che c'era una cimice della polizia, ha scoperto il piano e da allora vivo così.
Why are you so calm? If I was you, I'd be a ball of nerves.
Cerco di apparire come un uomo libero, perché non bisogna mai darla vinta a loro. Nel, qui c'è stata una guerra che ha provocato complessivamente solo in provincia di Reggio oltre 5-6 mila morti ammazzati, anche con donne e bambini.
The 'Ndrangheta seem to be taking trash trafficking to a whole new level. How do they operate?
È stato certificato da una serie di relazioni fatte dai servizi segreti italiani e da intercettazioni telefoniche che l''Ndrangheta si occupava anche dei rifiuti tossici e radioattivi. Ci sono varie inchieste sulle navi a perdere, cioè carrette del mare che venivano caricate di rifiuti tossici e forse radioattivi e buttate nelle fosse del Mediterraneo. Ancora oggi non ci sono ritrovamenti ufficiali di questi rifiuti. Tu immaginati una nave che è stata fatta affondare in una fossa di 1000 metri di profondità. Diventa difficile recuperarla.
The 'Ndrangheta gained notoriety after kidnapping the grandson of the world's richest man, John Paul Getty III, in 1973. A multi-million-dollar ransom was paid when they delivered his severed ear to a national newspaper. Since then, they've grown to be the world's most powerful criminal organization, with a presence in 31 countries. Drugs, arms, toxic waste, and even embezzlement of EU funds earns them billions of euros a year.
Una volta i capi dell''Ndrangheta non sapevano parlare l'italiano, oggi parlano 3-4 lingue, sanno come funziona il sistema di riciclaggio, sanno cosa sono i paradisi fiscali, non hanno più la coppola e la lupara, ma camminano in giacca e cravatta, sanno stare nella City londinese o nei paradisi fiscali di Panama. Pericolo è il sistema criminale globale che si sta costruendo tra di loro e che rischia di attentare alla libertà del mondo.
An alliance of Calabrian families, bonded by blood ties, the 'Ndrangheta are impossible to infiltrate. If one family is arrested, another takes their place.
There's almost no country where you don't have 'Ndrangheta presence. They were the first to syndicate crime. So they got to that level where, they don't really have to, kill people anymore because others will do that for them. They can syndicate drug trafficking. They can provide the financial services through the banks that they own. So they're more like a criminal logistics company right now that gives the other criminal groups the tools, the software, the contacts, the political corruption to carry on with the business. And they sit back and take a cut of that.
I've come to meet prosecutor Alessandro Dolci, who for the last 20 years has been trying to bring the 'Ndrangheta to justice.
L''Ndrangheta si è occupata per molti anni soprattutto di traffico di droga e questo ha fatto sì che rilevasse una serie di società Da ultimo nel settore dei rifiuti, perché il settore dei rifiuti è un business molto molto lucroso. Le persone nei cui confronti noi investighiamo spesso al telefono dicono facciamo il traffico di rifiuti perché tanto le pene previste per questo reato sono ridicole.
Which other industries are the 'ndrangheta in?
La 'ndrangheta noi la definiamo come una società di servizi perché è in grado di rendere più efficacemente i servizi che rende lo Stato.
How successful are you in getting these 'ndrangheta mafia members in prison?
Noi abbiamo fatto in passato un processo nei confronti di 185 detenuti. Sono stata chiusa in aula bunker per 124 udienze dalla mattina alla sera ed è stato molto molto faticoso. Fino a quel momento non conoscevamo qual era il profilo organizzativo e la governance della 'ndrangheta, da cui si esce solo con la morte. Ci sono pochissimi pentiti, collaboratori di giustizia.
Are you in danger?
Giovanni Falcone diceva sempre: chi ha paura muore un po' per volta ogni giorno, chi non ha paura muore una volta sola. E lui non ha avuto paura.
Top anti-mafia prosecutor Falcone was assassinated in a car bomb by the Cosa Nostra Mafia in 1992. The threat for prosecutor Dolci still looms large.
Spero che il loro sacrificio non sia stato vano. Solo questo mi auguro.
A lot of responsibility on your shoulders.
Certo, sicuramente è una bella responsabilità.
The 'ndrangheta now make billions of euros a year from the toxic waste trade.
It's ultimately about these people imposing their will and imposing their criminal culture onto populations, onto places, onto towns. And this is what's very, very damaging to everybody ultimately, because it's like a cancer that keeps on growing and growing unless people see waste as a healthcare emergency. Groups like the 'ndrangheta will only be more successful.